welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host Lipakshi Khurana. Let's begin with the headlines first. Netherlands returns 6 colonial-era artifacts stolen from Sri Lanka. Pollution at unprecedented levels in Pakistan. Lahore city chokes in toxic smog. And waste management employees hold strikes against Gilgit-Baltistan administration. Let's begin the show. Netherlands has recently returned the precious colonial-era artifacts to Sri Lanka following a legal agreement signed between the two countries to regain the ownership of the looted objects. The 6 colonial artifacts were put on display at the Colombo National Museum. The Cultural Minister of Sri Lanka is hopeful of return of more artifacts taken from the country during the bygone era. Let's take a look.
Six colonial-era artifacts returned to Sri Lanka by the Netherlands were showcased at the Colombo National Museum following a legal agreement signed in August by the two countries for the South Asian nation to regain ownership of the looted objects. The colonial artifacts include the bejeweled cannon of candy made of bronze, silver and gold seized in 1765 by soldiers of the Dutch East Company and displayed in the Prince of Orange's Cabinet of Rarities and later the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam.
There are some more to come and we hope to get them back, not only in Netherlands but also in other countries like Great Britain. And so we have started negotiations and I hope they will be fruitful, and very soon they will also have the ability, capability and guts to return what was taken from our country.
The island's cultural minister, Vidura Vikramenaike, said he hoped for the return of more Sri Lankan artifacts from not only Netherlands but also in other countries like Great Britain, and that these countries have the ability, capability and the guts to return what was taken from our country.
We plan to continue work with Sri Lanka about other objects of Sri Lankan origin that are still in the Netherlands in our museums.
In 2020, the Dutch capital's Rijksmuseum said at least 4,000 objects in its collections have clear ties to the country's colonial empire, which spanned some 300 years from the mid-17th century and whose main centers of power were in Southeast Asia and the Caribbean.
And moving on, Lahore city in Pakistan is battling with toxic smog as pollution levels in the city have touched an unprecedented high. Children with their parents were lined up for treatment at the city hospitals after suffering breathing difficulties. Health officials estimated an increase of at least 50% in pediatric patients due to respiratory issues. We have a report.
Toxic smog has been choking Pakistan's Lahore city these days. In the packed pediatric emergency room of a Lahore public hospital, parents holding sick children lined up for treatment this week. Parents were seen holding nebulizing devices to their children's noses, engulfing their faces in a billow of steam, delivering medication to ease their congested airways.
Smog these days is affecting a lot of children, particularly the school-going age is most likely affected with that. These children present with complaint of cough, night exacerbations of cough, early morning cough. Apart from that, they have nasal discharge, rhinorrhea, they are having breathing difficulty.
Health officials estimated there has been at least a 50% rise in pediatric patients due to respiratory issues exacerbated by poor air quality in the last month.
If our OPD was, for instance, of 10,000 in the last month, from them, like around 6 to 7,000 patients presented to us with a complaint of upper respiratory tract or lower respiratory tract infection. So it has increased a lot. The numbers have increased.
The city of 11 million, considered the cultural capital of Pakistan, has been blanketed in thick haze that partially blocks the sun and shrouds streets with fog at night. The problem becomes more severe in cooler months as temperature inversion prevents a layer of warm air from rising and traps pollutants closer to the ground.
जाहिर है इसके बारे में काफ़ी फ़िक्रमंद है बच्चों को तो है, बड़ों को भी इसके साथ साथ हो रहा है ये इन्फेक्शन, तो जिसकी वजह से ये हॉस्पिटल में आना पड़ा है हमें मजबूरन.
As cooler temperatures took hold in November, air quality levels spiraled. 24 of last 30 days had hazardous or very unhealthy air quality, according to Swiss group IQ Air.
Previously, we used to see that the preeclampsia or the increased blood pressure that was mostly associated. It had a seasonal variation with hot or weather or summers. But now we're also seeing that more cases of hypertension are coming in winters as well. So we were a bit like concerned, like how is this? There is a shift of high risk of hypertension in winters. Why is it so? So one of the explanation can be that smog could be causing it.
The UN Children's Agency says globally outdoor air pollution contributed to 154,000 deaths of children aged below 5 years in 2019. In Pakistan, it is one of the top 5 causes of death among entire population, and young children are the most severely affected along with the elderly.
Our pediatric hospitals, they are overwhelmed with burden from the respiratory issues. In any case, the most common cause of infant mortality, obviously we are struggling to meet sustainable development goals here. The neonatal mortality is mainly driven from gastrointestinal disease and then respiratory disease.
4 partial lockdowns have taken place since the start of November, as well as campaigns to promote masks. Crop burning carried out by farmers to remove remnants of rice crops to make way for wheat was a major contributor to the problem, he said. The poor quality of fuel in vehicles and construction and industrial activity too adds to the increasing pollution. Without costly investments in specialized equipment for farmers, burning could not be fully curbed without risking food security. The provincial government was researching cloud seeding to make artificially induced rain to clear the skies.
Now we take a look at some happenings in Asia in a segment called Asia Watch.
Top EU officials met Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing on December 7 for their first in-person summit in 4 years to discuss issues ranging from trade imbalances to Ukraine, with an agenda full of tough rhetoric but light on deliverables. During the meeting attended by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, European Council President Charles Michel, and EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell, Xi urged the EU to work with China to provide global stability, enhance mutual political trust, and eliminate all kinds of interference in the bilateral relationship. EU officials said the two sides could cooperate more on action to end the war in Ukraine and to bring humanitarian support to Gaza, with Michael also expressing concern over the increasing tensions in the Strait of Taiwan and the South China Sea, while reiterating that EU recognizes the One China policy. The EU officials will also meet Chinese Premier Li Qiang on their one-day visit. It will be their last chance to get face time with top Chinese officials before the European Parliament elections kick off next year, triggering chances in the bloc's leadership. Russian television has shown footage of what it says is a US-built Bradley infantry fighting vehicle captured on the front line in Ukraine's Luhansk region after it was immobilized by Russian fire and abandoned by its Ukrainian crew. The presenter of the primetime shows on the main Channel 1 channel suggested that the capture of the working Bradley, one of several dozen that Washington has supplied to Ukraine this year, would enable Russian forces to identify its vulnerabilities. The news item featured interviews with several unidentified masked members of two recovery crews. The vehicle shown in the footage was riddled with bullet holes, which the presenter said had been left by Ukrainian drones trying to destroy as much of the high-tech equipment in the abandoned vehicle as possible. The camera shows stacks of heavy machine gun rounds and yellow-tipped cannon rounds. One of the recovery team said the vehicle appeared to be an upgraded version of the Bradley with a more powerful engine, improved dynamic protection against cannon fire, and better night vision and fire guidance systems. He said the vehicle had only around 240 km on the clock. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has no strategy for the war and beyond but to remain in power. A political science expert from the University of Tel Aviv said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has no strategy for the war and beyond but to remain in power. Facing a huge wave of criticism over his failure to prevent the shock Hamas infiltration of Israel on October 7, Netanyahu has largely avoided the limelight while conducting a two-front war, one against Hamas and other for his political survival. Residents on the streets of Jerusalem said on December 5 the movement marked the end of Netanyahu's career, with some calling for his immediate resignation and others wanting his tenure to finish after the war. Netanyahu has long maintained an image as a security hawk, tough on Iran and backed by an army that ensured Jews would never again suffer a Holocaust. The attack saw Hamas gunmen enter from Gaza, killing 1,200 people, abducting 240 more and engulfing the country in war.
The employees of Gilgit-Baltistan Waste Management Company held strikes in the illegally occupied territory against the administration. They demand their employment should be considered under government service structure and they should receive salaries and benefits at par with other government departments. The employees were recruited under government jobs but do not receive their salaries and incentives as per government service structure for employees. We have a report.
The employees of Gilgit-Baltistan Waste Management Company GBWMC held strikes in several districts of the illegally occupied territory against the local administration. The Waste Management Company is the only entity in Gilgit-Baltistan responsible for managing cleanliness and disposal of waste from administrative buildings, hospitals and other public areas in cities. The employees complain although they were recruited by the local government on special pay scale, they receive no incentives or benefits. They demand that their employment should fall under regular service structure at par with other government departments.
हमारा मुतालबा है जी कि हमारे ये सर्विस स्ट्रक्चर बहाल किया जाए और बाकी ये सारे मुलाजमीन के ही मुतालबा है कि सर्विस स्ट्रक्चर हमारा बहाल किया जाए, ताकि जो अब तो कंपनी मोड में जिसमें हम रह रहे हैं इसमें अभी तक हमें कोई मराद नहीं है, ना हमें कोई मराद मिल रहे हैं। हम बढ़ते हम SPS के हैं, तो अब तक हमें उससे भी निकाला है। 2 साल के बाद उन्होंने उससे भी निकाल के अब हमें कंपनी मोड में डाला गया है। तो हमारे ये हुकूमत वक्त से अपील है कि हमारे ये सर्विस स्ट्रक्चर को बहाल किया जाए ताकि हमारा मुस्तक़बिल सिक्योर रहे।
The waste management workers are the first line of defense against any pandemic or epidemic in the region. During COVID-19 outbreak, they were on the field day and night, taking risks on their lives and providing services to the general public.
हम दिन रात काम करते हैं, इसका सिला हमें यही मिलता है। अभी इसका यही हमें दिन रात काम करने का सिला यही मिल रहा है, ना 35% दिया है और ना और कुछ मराठा है, ना मेडिकल अलाउंस है, ना और कुछ दिया जा रहा है।
The employees revealed they have to risk their lives on the job and are exposed to diseases, but the government has provided them with no insurance or medical allowances. The employees demand their jobs should be regularized and they should receive all the services and entitled benefits a regular worker receives from the administration. They say they were given employment under the government department, but later they were put under company mode.
कंपनी मोड खत्म करने सर्विस स्ट्रक्चर देने, हमें सर्विस स्ट्रक्चर की बहुत अहम ज़रूरत है। कंपनी मोड बिल्कुल ख़त्म करें, इनके मुतालबे भी यही है। पूरा GV में 9 यूनिट है, 9 यूनिट सारे बंद किया है कि कंपनी मोड ख़त्म करके हमें सर्विस स्ट्रक्चर दें।
The government employees' protests against Pakistan's proxy administration in Gilgit-Baltistan has become a common occurrence. Teachers, doctors and workers in other departments often hold protests against the administration, demanding their pensions, due salaries and other rights. Till now, the apathetic administration has paid no heed to the prevailing issues of government employees. In such a scenario, when public departments go on strike, the sufferings of the general public too get further aggravated.
And at last, let's take a look at the vibrant state of Odisha, which recently celebrated Boita Bandana, a boat festival that commemorates the maritime glory of the eastern Indian state. Let's have a look.
Odisha, often known for its unique culture and vibrant traditions, has unfolded yet again a very unusual festive celebration. Boita Bandana is a boat festival that commemorates the maritime glory of Odisha. The festival is observed on the occasion of Kartik Purnima. Every year, on the full moon day of the Kartik month, people in large numbers gather at the water bodies to set miniature boats on the water's surface. Boita Bandana generally falls between October and November month.
This Boita Bandana celebrates thousands of years of India's special ties with trade relations with Bali. When traders used to go to Bali, the trading community. So that is what we cherish, putting the boats afloat in the water every year. So we feel proud to be Odia, celebrating of our trade relations, which our ancestors did in those days.
This historical event is commemorated by the symbolic floating miniature boats made of banana stems, paper and colored cloth in waters like rivers, ponds and seas. The ritual pays homage to the rich maritime history of the region and the brave sailors who ventured into the sea for trade. It is believed that merchants used to set sail on boyatas to trade with countries like Java, Sumatra, Bali and Indonesia. The festival is rooted in the historical significance of Odisha as a major maritime power in ancient times. The decorated miniature boats are set afloat with offerings of lamps, flowers and prasad as a gesture of remembrance and gratitude to the sea god Varun.
हम लोग प्रेयर करते हैं, बोट को ये शुभकामना दे के डालते हैं कि हमारी जो ज़िंदगी है वो सुखमय जाए. हमारे ट्रेडिशन के लोग ये मानते हैं कि 1 month without non-veg, without onion and garlic, they do the habisa and all. So this is a way of celebrating their 1 month sacrifice and also the return of those traders.
Festivals like these showcase India's rich and unique traditions cultivated for years in every corner. Meanwhile, they also give people a break from everyday chores and an opportunity to connect with their families and friends.
And it's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We'll be back next week at the same time. This is Lipakshi Kurana signing off on behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.